Paranormal.
Baby.
That cannot be explained by scientific methods.
Told of a creature that was 6.5 to 7 feet tall.
The CIA ran secret mind control experiments.
It's a tale of a creature that's been seen by many, but believed by few.
And experts say there have been reported sightings of paranormal activity.
And there was this creature that ran down this hill.
They say something was flying over their house, and they have no idea what it was.
How the world's most powerful individuals are actually shape-shifting reptilians.
My scariest ghost hunting experience.
Jason and JV.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Can't handle the truth. Who would it now?
Beyond reality. Radio.
And welcome, everybody. It is the night that opens up the week for us. It's Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV Johnson. Jason is off tonight. Now, I thought he was going to be back with us tonight, but he's traveling today, getting in late, so he'll be back with our next live program, so we're looking forward to that. But we've got a great one lined up for you. We actually have a couple guests for you tonight. We have the scheduled guest, who is Nomar Slavik. He's a UFO author, researcher, and investigator. He's going to talk about what got him interested in exploring and researching UFO sightings, plus why he writes books about it. He'll talk and share some of the stories of his investigations and his documentary. He does a podcast as well. So we'll have a lot to talk about with Nomar Slavik, and that'll be the second guest. The first guest, however, and we will bring him in after the break, is Bob Christopher. And Bob is a promoter. He's working on the Pennhurst Paracon, which is an event that I'll actually be attending on August 18th and 19th. He's going to talk a little bit about Pennhurst Asylum, which is a very, very haunted location. It's been investigated a lot of reports of activity there. So we're going to get some of those stories with Bob, and he'll tell us what's going on the 18th and 19th of August during the Paracon. Sounds like it's going to be a great event. I can't wait to go. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that's all coming up tonight. Tomorrow night, we will have actually a best of for you. I've got to do a little bit of traveling, so I will not be here tomorrow night. So Wednesday night, we'll come back. Jason will be back with us, and we'll be live again on Wednesday night. Tomorrow night will be a very, very good program. We're going back in the August. And as we do on every first Thursday of the month, we'll have Rebecca Foster on, and we'll do readings with Rebecca. We will take your phone calls, and she'll do readings for you live on air. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very interesting. And I'm not sure, Slick, are we going to try to do 2 hours? You do the whole 2 hours? Okay, you're working on that? All right, so we might, I know we'll go more than an hour, because last time we had so many phone calls, we had to extend past an hour, and then we still had to cut people off. So on Thursday this week, we will do at least an hour and a half, and maybe even do the full 2 hours, depending on what Slick works out for us. So it's a great week of programs for you on Beyond Reality Radio. And while we're presenting and offering these programs to you, we'd love it if you'd stop by the Facebook page. It's just Beyond Reality Radio on Facebook. Give that a like and share it with your friends. Also, stop by the website at beyondrealityradio.com. Check out all we have to offer there, including our list of affiliate radio stations, so you can see what the closest station is to you. If you're traveling, it's always great information to have. And also, the Beyond Reality Radio coffee mug is there available for sale. And it's a great mug. I promise you, coffee has never tasted better than out of that mug. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, Bob Christopher will be back to talk with us about the Pennhurst Paracon. We've got a lot of show tonight. Don't go away. It's Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV Johnson.
double fall.
Back to the program. It's Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV Johnson. Jason is off tonight. Tomorrow night will be a best of program. We'll play one of the interviews from a while ago, but it's going to be a good one, I promise you. And then Wednesday night, we'll be back live with our guest, J.R. Freeman. Tonight, as I said, we've got a couple of guests on the program tonight. We'll be speaking with Nomar Slavik about UFOs in just a little bit. But first, I want to welcome Bob Christopher to the show. Bob is a promoter. He is organizing and working on the Pennhurst Paracon, which actually I just announced that it'll be appearing at August 18th and 19th. Bob, welcome to Beyond Reality Radio. It's great to have you on tonight.
Thank you, JV. It's a pleasure to be on here.
So before we get into the event, I know we only have a few minutes with you here, but before we actually talk about the event itself, tell us a little bit about Pennhurst.
Pennhurst. It's in Spring City, Pennsylvania, and it's a state school that actually closed down in the mid-'70s. It was for the feeble-minded, and it was basically one of the worst places in the country, I would say, for that. They were like self-medicated, and just it was just a really bad place. They just pretty much left them there to die, all the patients.
So this is one of those notorious facilities that patients were neglected, they were mistreated. Those horror stories we hear often and frequently they make movies about.
Correct. I think Geraldo was actually involved in this, in the closing of this, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think that might be true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's probably one of the most haunted places that I've been in. Just crazy with activity, and the new owners, Matt Herzog, took over this, and they completely cleaned the place up. I mean, it's just an amazing place now. The grass is all groomed, all the ivy's off the buildings. They're doing all kind of repairs and, getting everything up to code and making everything safe for everybody so that, we can enjoy this facility as ghost hunters.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about the activity, because I've heard some terrific stories about it. I know it's been investigated a lot, and people come back with a lot of evidence of activity. But what are some of the things that you've heard of being reported there?
Well, I mean, personally, I've been there probably 50 or 60 times already. Right now, only the Mayflower building and a few of the tunnels are actually open for investigating. The Mayflower building up on the third floor, there's a nurse that's always been seen up there, all kind of activity up there, EVPs, like Class A EVPs all the time, all the way down to the basement where, they get children playing down there, and they have some kind of spirit down there they call the King in this one room, where he's a pretty nasty spirit. There's claims of, scratching and pushing, and just, I know that particularly he doesn't like women in that room.
That's an interesting report, because I know there are several facilities kind of similar in nature. Rolling Hills Asylum is one of them, and there's some others where there seem to be spirits that have a particular angst when it comes to women visitors. So that's not uncommon.
No, not at all, not at all. And I'm thinking that they remind them of the nurses. I'm not sure how the nurses treated them. Maybe they just were poorly treated or whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point. So the event is August 18th and 19th, and tell us a little bit about what happens at these events.
Okay, this is a little bit different than most Paracons. Most Paracons, they have the vendor set up and they have the stars where you get to see the stars. This is actually, you get to tour Pennhurst. Okay, you can go out and you can walk through the Mayflower building as long as you want. Gates open at 10 a.m., and we have close to 60 vendors right now that we're going to have in the courtyard We have 10 celebrities. We're doing lectures. We're doing photo tours. Some of the buildings and the tunnels are actually handicap accessible now, so that we can get those people in there to enjoy it. And what else do we have? We have hot air balloon rides. We have sideshow performances going on all day long. And it's just going to be a great time. It really is. We also have mini ghost hunts. Like, if you want to experience a ghost hunt, if you've never been on a ghost hunt, we have a 45-minute ghost hunt. You can go down into the basement of Mayflower, or you can go down into the tunnels and try to get an experience for yourself.
So there's a lot going on. You mentioned celebrities, and I know there's some pretty interesting and fun and big names that are going to be there. So why don't you tick off a few of the people that are going to be on site for the weekend? Yeah.
Sure. First, we have Grant Wilson coming from Ghost Hunters. Awesome guy. And then we have the Godfather himself, John Zaff, is coming. We also have Scott Grumall. We have the Mountain Gypsies coming. We have tents in the courtyards, where we're going to have the vendors and the stars there, and you can walk around for $20. That's what it costs to come into the Paracon, and you can stay there from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. and walk around. You can go right up to the table. Every one of these stars are very, approachable, and get your picture taken with them. There's no charge for that. Talk to them. They're going to have all kind of merchandise there, I'm sure, and it's going to be a great time. It really is. So many different vendors, too. Like, it's not just paranormal. Like, we have a good mix of vendors where, everybody can walk around and get something for themselves.
I've got to say, because I've attended and been at a lot of these events, and I've also held some of my own as a promoter, I don't think people really appreciate how accessible the celebrities are. It's as though you're at a big party with these folks. That's how accessible they are. They don't put up any pretense. There's no barriers per se. They like to talk to people, and they're there to do that.
Absolutely. And like I said, each and every one of these people that are coming, they're so approachable, and I mean, so friendly. People come up to me and say, hey, I'm a little afraid. Can you introduce me? No problem. And they just it's like their family. It's like one big happy paranormal family, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. So if people are interested in going, first of all, can they buy tickets in advance? B, can they buy them at the door if they don't buy them in advance?
No. Actually, tickets are only on sale actually, online at www.penhurstparacon.com. That's the only place you can get them. They're not selling any at the gates, okay? We are getting close to our limit on tickets, okay? I think we're over 1,300 tickets per day right now.
Wow.
So, yeah, there's a lot of people coming to this. It's going to be a huge event.
That's amazing. That's a lot of people. A lot of paranormal curiosity seekers, I would say. When it comes to the building and the facilities itself, how many times have you had this type of event there?
This is actually the fourth one that I'm actually involved with. The previous owners had 3 there, and when we first started this, It was probably 4 years ago. I think we had 50 people there. It was just, started out as a walking tour.
Yeah.
And it just grew so fast. I mean, there's so much interest for this place. The best part is you can walk around. It's no really guided tours. We do have guided tours, history tours, and all that going on. You can take those. But if you just want to go yourself, and just free reign, walk around and take pictures, do what you want to do. The only thing is, there's buildings that aren't accessible. They're not, they're dangerous right now. And we may have Devon open by then. So we may have an extra building that we're going to be able to walk through. I don't know if you've ever been in Devon. That's actually a huge building. They were actually cleaning it out 3 weeks ago when I was there, and they were almost finished with it. Wow. So that'll be up to code soon.
So tell me this, and I know the answer to it, but our audience may not. When you have events or people have events at facilities like this, it helps preserve these places, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A lot of the money goes back in, and like I said, they've made so much improvements on this place. Like the weeds are gone, they put emergency lighting in, exit signs. They've actually dug out some of the tunnels that were actually covered, with dirt. All the debris is gone inside the building, so it's a safe environment now. You don't have to worry about, anything happening to you. There's, fire doors and all that going on. It's great. The preservation of the buildings is great because we actually need to keep these buildings. We really do.
Yeah, they're not only a part of history, but there's a lot of emotional. I mean, especially some of these places where so many people suffered. They're almost a monument to those people. We only have about a minute left here, so once again, give the folks the web address and explain the rules for getting tickets, because what you're basically saying is they got to get them quickly.
Yes, you do have to get them quickly. We do have vending spots open. If you want to get a vendor spot, those are
And when we come back, we will bring our next guest in, Nomar Slavik. We're going to talk about UFOs with Nomar. He's written a book, and we're going to be talking about his book. In fact, I'm going to hold up the book right now if I can reach it. It's called Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. So we're going to have a conversation with Nomar about the research that went into the book, the investigations, the experiences. All of that is right ahead on Beyond Reality Radio. Don't go away. Welcome back to Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV. Thanks for being along with me. Thank you to all the radio stations carrying the program around the country. We love seeing that list grow. And if a station near you is carrying the program, drop them a line. Say thank you. If a station near you isn't, and they should, drop them a line and say they should. Can't lose either way, right? Anyway, we've got a great guest scheduled for tonight. We're going to be talking about UFOs with Nomar Slavik. He's an author, a researcher, an investigator, not just in UFO phenomena, but other paranormal phenomena as well. He's written a couple books, including UFOs Over Maine, and his newest book called Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. And let's welcome Nomar to the program. Nomar, welcome to Beyond Reality Radio. Great to have you on tonight.
Yo, JV Johnson, what an honor. Thanks so much for having me on, man.
Did Slick Eddie pay you to say it that way?
No, I'm just a big idiot. But,
okay, fair enough. That's what we both are.
I'm a big fan of this show, a fan of ghost hunters. My mother says hi, and I've been down with Beyond Reality since the first one with Grant.
Oh, so, wow. So, yeah. Jason and Grant started the program, like 2004, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
Ran it for, I don't know if it was quite a year, and then just the show just got too busy. And obviously, Jason, when the show went off Sci-Fi, wanted to resurrect it, and he and I put it back together, and here we are, and we've got you on the program, so it all worked out perfectly, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess it did, and you guys are killing it, and you keep adding stations, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We're really, really honored. In fact, tomorrow, August 1st, will be our 2-year anniversary of being syndicated, which is pretty exciting itself.
That went by really fast. I remember when you guys were playing around with like Periscope and Speaker and all that stuff. So crazy.
That's right. Yeah, that was our incubator. Anyway, we're not here to talk about us. We're here to talk about you and what you're up to. So before we get into the details of the book, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Tell us first of all how you started to develop an interest in the paranormal. I find everybody's story is a bit different with a lot of common threads, but they're all interesting.
Yeah, well, I think you'll find a common thread here. It was like 1982, 1983. I was 4 or 5 years old, and I had a sighting in Fort Kent. Fort Kent is at the tip of Maine. Like, you can literally throw a rock and hit Canada. And I used to get my haircuts there when I was a kid. But anyways, it was a late winter, and I was sound asleep in bed, and a loud clap of thunder woke me up. And I could hear the tapping of rain hitting my windows. And then I saw a flash of light, and I was like, ooh, a thunder and lightning storm. So I kneeled up in my bed, and I was watching the storm. And then after a moment or so, I saw this thick lightning bolt. It's the only way I can think to describe it. Like, that's how I remember it in my head. Like, if I were to ask you to draw a lightning bolt, you would draw that thick, jagged yellow line, or the way your smartphone charging indicator looks. And it was stuck into a cloud. It was very weird. And there were like electrical arcs coming off of it, and there were booming sounds, and it just made no sense, because even then at like that age, I knew that you can only see lightning for a very short amount of time. So I kept watching it, and eventually I guess I drifted back off to sleep. So when I woke up in the morning and went to the bathroom, and when I was walking back to my bedroom, my windows faced the St. John River, and that's where I saw the lightning bolt, and it was still there, stuck in the cloud. Yeah, so I ran downstairs, got my dad, and brought him upstairs. I'm not sure why we didn't just go outside, but I brought him upstairs to show him, and it was gone. And I was trying to explain to him what happened and what I was seeing, and he kind of just like patted my head or like ruffled my hair, like yeah, like little kid, like adults do, little kids, but he did tell me that it did not rain the night before. So after that, I was actually pretty scared of the experience. And then about 2 weeks later, I then witnessed the Northern Lights. My folks brought my sister and I outside, and it was gorgeous and strange. But those two things taught me at a young age that the world is friggin' mysterious and weird and scary. But I was kind of hooked, but still scared, And then, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it's all those things and fascinating at the same time.
Yeah. Completely agree. But I think that was the first time I saw a UFO. I still remember it as a lightning bolt. So who knows? But it was very, very odd. And as time went on, as I got older, that scaredness went away and it turned into fascination. So I started checking out books at the library. I was trying to read everything I could on UFOs. They had about like 4 books that I checked out all the time. And I didn't understand it all at the time either, but I was fascinated by the stories. And then I started thinking as I was getting into my late teens, early 20s, like, yo, if I'm not scared anymore, other people might be, and maybe I can talk to them and help them not be scared. And that's where like talking to people and interviewing people kind of had its roots, and then just kind of went from there with research and really getting into it, you know.
When you had that experience, you say you were like 5 years old? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like 4 or 5 years old.
You know, and a lot of us, have these glimpses of things at that age. We don't remember a whole lot, but the things that we do remember from that age are things that are really impactful in our lives. And I'm assuming that experience is, ranks right up there in that category for you.
Absolutely, remember it like it was yesterday. I even talked to my dad about it the other day because I knew I was coming on the show. I was like, "Yo, do you remember that when I was talking to you about that?" And he's like, vaguely."
When as you started to develop this curiosity, is it something that as a child you would look for material or go out and stare at the night sky, or did you do those things that a lot of us did at that age, or is it something that actually kind of festered for a while and then as you became an adult, you became more active in pursuing it?
No, I would say I stared at the sky all the time. I was just so fascinated by it, and seeing the stars and seeing. Oh yeah, man! Like barely, vaguely.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's the International Space Station now.
Sure.
This was the first effort, and it was orbiting Earth for a period of time. I don't remember because I was very, very young, but it came crashing to Earth at some point, and I remember the night that it was supposed to actually break the Earth's atmosphere and come in and burn up in the atmosphere. And a friend of mine and I went outside. It was a crystal clear night, and we were in the middle of nowheres where we lived, and we just stared at the sky. And we didn't see Skylab, but I tell you, we saw so many things going through the night sky. If you just take the time to look and just stare, you see things.
Yeah, and that's really all it takes. Like you said, I am lucky to have, spied these 10 different things, but really all it takes is just put the phone away and look up. And if you're in a city, I know that's tough, but do what you can to try to just look up. I look up more than most, and I just see a lot of weird things. Now, when I say I've seen 10 UFOs, I'm not telling you that I saw 10 extraterrestrial crafts.
Right.
I literally saw unidentified flying objects. Who the hell knows what they were? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, and that's the difference. A lot of people assume when you say UFO, you're talking about an alien craft. But what you're saying here is it's something that it didn't look like an airplane, didn't look like something that you could recognize, so you just don't know what it was. You certainly didn't see aliens waving at you through a window, right?
Right. I did see a Chinese lantern 2 summers ago, and that was my first time seeing that in the night sky. And it was pretty clear it had been released, like 10, 20 minutes prior, because it was up there a little ways, maybe 300 feet. And that's a weird thing to see, but it was easily identifiable, though. But when you first see it, you're like, whoa, what is that? Oh.
And I just want to make another comment about staring up at the night sky. Many of us live in metropolitan areas, and we think when we look up at the sky it's dark. But until you go somewhere where there's no light pollution, you really haven't seen the night sky yet.
Yeah, when you're up in Maine, that's some night sky, I'm telling you.
Yeah, I mean, it is spectacular, especially if you can get it on a night where there's not a lot of humidity or haze in the air. It's a rare set of circumstances, but when you can do it, it is spectacular. So
this is...
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
But it's been a tough summer for it, for everybody. It's been just so hot and humid, so it's actually been kind of tough looking up lately.
So at some point along the way, you decided you were going to write a book about people's experiences. What triggered that for you?
Well, I have, like, as we all do that are into the paranormal, we all have our own little libraries of paranormal books, whether it's hauntings, UFOs, Sasquatch, all that good stuff. And I have a couple of books that mention stories of UFOs in Maine, but there was nothing dedicated to it. There's probably 50 or 100 books about ghosts in Maine, but there was nothing dedicated to UFOs. And I decided, like 8-9 years ago, that I was going to write that book, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I started writing, and then somebody was dumb enough to put it out, so that was pretty cool.
As you were gathering information for the book, and of course right now we're talking about otherworldly encounters, evidence of UFO sightings and abductions, how did you collect the stories?
Oh, so many different ways. The first book kind of, got my name out there, and more well-known cases in the book, like the Allagash abductions. Ray Fowler wrote a book about that. They were featured on Unsolved Mysteries back in the day, which I love that show. But and it's, in my opinion, it's like a starter edition. There might be 20 stories in it, something like that, and some of them are short, and but there's been so many cases, through my research over the past 10 years for both books. I probably went over about 800 cases from Maine alone.
Wow.
And that spanned crop circles, men in black, UFOs landing, abductions. It just runs the gamut.
All right, I'm going to pick up on that when we get back from a break. We're talking with Nomar Slavik. He's the author of a book called Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. We will be opening up our phone lines a little bit later. The number's 844-687-7669. It's Beyond Reality Radio. the book Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. He's also got a book out called UFOs Over Maine. He's a researcher and a paranormal investigator, and this is a particularly short segment, so this might be a good time to bring this up. But Nomar, you're also a musician.
Yeah.
Tell us, what kind of musician?
Well, I'm a producer. I make hip hop music, and I'm also a rapper. I've been doing it for about 25 years. My passion for the paranormal came first, and then music happened second. But I've been on a record label out of Portland, Maine, for a bunch of years now. Mill Pavement Records. Shout out to Moshe and Brzezowski. But yeah, and as of late, because I've been so busy with interviewing people and writing and things like that, that the music, I was releasing stuff like, once a year, maybe once every 2 years. But now what I've been doing is releasing accompaniment pieces with the book. So when the first book came out, I put out a CD, and this book came out, and I have a cassette actually that I'm going to be putting out by the end of summer. And it's kind of just like a companion piece.
I hope you don't think this is an insult, because it's really not meant to be, but did anybody ever tell you you resemble Sal from Impractical Jokers?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I'm the only one that thinks so. I'm just looking at your picture on our YouTube feed. that's the first thing that came to mind. So when it comes to the book Otherworldly Encounters, is it just UFO stories, or there's other stuff in there as well?
No, there's some other stuff too, man. There's a story about like a Mothman type encounter that happened in Maine, and there's a story about dogmen that happened. So it really covers a lot of different aspects, along with a story of abduction. This gentleman also talks about paranormal experiences inside his home afterwards, so some concurrent things going on, kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say that too, because that seems to be more and more common, where there are these intersections of various paranormal disciplines kind of, they come together, and there's, concurrent or sequential experiences, whether it's a ghost, a UFO, a Bigfoot, all these things kind of happen either together or one right after the other. And it's pretty interesting. I think it's a field of study on its own. We've got about a minute here before we have to go to break. And when we come back on the other side of the break, we're going to not only take phone calls, but we're going to get into some of the details of some of these stories that you share. But tell people where they can get the book right now.
Yeah, they can get the book wherever books are sold, meaning Amazon, Barnes & Noble, straight from my publisher, which is Llewellyn Worldwide Publishing. There's also a really cool website called indiebound.org, and they're a search engine for mom and pop stores, which is really cool, and I think it's important to keep them in business.
Yeah, no, that's a great point as well. In fact, today, I think it's today, or maybe it's this month, maybe it's the month, I don't know. I just read something where it was National Support Your Local Retailer Day or something like that. It's a very, very worthy cause, because we're losing our mom and pop shops in every industry, not just booksellers, but everyone. So it's very, very important. They're generally our neighbors, and their kids go to school with our kids and all those things, and it's really important to support them. So that's great that that's available. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, the phone lines will be open, and we'll continue our conversation with Nomar Slavik about his book Otherworldly Encounters, Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. Don't forget, tomorrow night is a best of program. I will be on the road, so we'll have a great interview, one of our past interviews airing tomorrow night. And then Wednesday night, we'll be back with J.R. Freeman. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran, plus he's an author. He spent 18 years in the Air Force, and he had 2 near-death experiences in which he actually experienced the afterlife. He wrote a 5-book series about those experiences called To the Other World and Beyond, and he describes his journey in those books, plus he'll talk to us about them. Not just the experiences, but what it has taught him on how to apply those lessons to his life. And he'll share that all with us on Wednesday night's program. And then, of course, Thursday night, Readings with Rebecca. We love that. It's Beyond Reality Radio. Don't go away. We have so much more coming up tonight.
paranormal that cannot be explained by scientific methods.
Told of a creature that was 6.5 to 7 feet tall.
The CIA ran secret mind control experiments.
It's a tale of a creature that's been seen by many, but believed by few.
And experts say there have been reported sightings of paranormal activity.
And there was this creature and it ran down this hill.
They say something was flying over their house and they have no idea what it was.
How the world's most powerful individuals are actually shape-shifting reptilians.
My scariest ghost hunting experience.
Jason and JV.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. Can't handle the truth. Who win it now?
Beyond reality radio.
Welcome to Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV Johnson. Jason is off tonight. He'll be back with us Wednesday night. Tomorrow night we'll have a best of program for you as I will be on the road. And Wednesday night we'll both be back here with J.R. Freeman. He is a U.S. Air Force veteran and an author. During his years with the Air Force, he had 2 near-death experiences in which he experienced the afterlife. He wrote a 5-book series about those experiences called The Other World and Beyond, and he describes his journeys into the other world in those books, and he'll share them with us as well. He says he's learned to apply those lessons to his life, and he'll teach us some of those things on Wednesday night's program. Thursday, it's the first Thursday of August, so the first Thursday of the month is Readings with Rebecca. Psychic medium Rebecca Foster will be here. She'll be taking your phone calls and giving you readings. Now, we always have a great time with this. We get a ton of phone calls when we do this. So pay attention to what's going on, because when I say call on Thursday night, you got to start dialing, and you got to keep dialing until you can get through, because the phone lines fill up very, very quickly. Slick, are we going to do 2 hours with that? You're still working on that. Okay. We may do the whole 2 hours, because last time we did about 1 hour and 20, and then we had a second guest on the program, and we had to leave a lot of people hanging on the lines because we just couldn't get to everybody. So we may go full 2 hours with that. We'll have to see how that works out. But we've got a great show tonight for you as well. We're talking about UFOs, and the phone lines are open, by the way, if you want to share your stories. Slick said, yeah, okay, we are going 2 hours. So our phone lines are open if you want to share your UFO stories or ask questions. Either way, it's 844-687-7669 is our phone number. And our guest tonight is Nomar Slavik. Nomar Slavik. He's a UFO author, researcher, investigator. He's written a couple books about UFOs, including UFOs Over Maine and Otherworldly Encounters is his most recent book. It's Evidence of UFOs, Sightings, and Abductions. Plus, there's other stories in there. And again, Nomar, thanks for being here. Let's talk about some of the stories that you shared. Now, first of all, are they all stories from Maine or the Northeast, or what's the geography?
Yeah, it's all Maine, actually, in this book.
Is there something unique about Maine that makes it so active? Is it because it's so quiet and maybe unpopulated in areas? I mean, what is it?
You know, that's a really good point. When I was actually talking to one of my witnesses, she talked about there are much less distractions, that maybe we're just more unintentionally aware. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. But also, Maine and New England has a long history of hauntings and Sasquatch stories and other cryptids, you know, like the Dover Demon. There's even been some dogman sightings. I actually talked to a dogman witness about a month ago. And then, of course, there's tons of extraterrestrial encounters, you know. So it just has this long history, but who knows why? Who knows why? I'm not really sure. So trying to figure that out.
There's not some mysterious fault line or some kind of dimensional portal that you're aware of. It just happens to be an active place.
Well, there may be a portal. I actually write about that in one of the stories.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, but most of the state is made of granite, so it's pretty hard around here. So who knows?
Well, let's talk about some of the stories. When you started putting stories together for the book, did you initially put out a call, if you will, for UFO stories, or did you look into media reports and try to find the ones that interested you the most?
Yeah, that's where it initially started. Looked into media reports, MUFON, New Fork, things like that. And then I started talking about it on my Facebook page. That's when I was starting to get some stories. Also in some of these stories in the media or these stories on MUFON, I was trying to find out more info, trying to get a witness name. And some of that I was successful with. And then those were the people I was able to meet with and get their story in person. And sometimes I was able to actually go on site and conducted a little investigation of my own.
That's got to be the most rewarding when you can actually visit the location and, and kind of see the.
Coming across this headline: "Man sees Mothman-like creature in Maine," and that's all I could find. I could never find a story. No matter where I searched, how I changed it up, nothing. So I actually reached out to a fellow author and researcher for some assistance. Her name's Michelle Solier, and she was actually able to track down a witness name. So I actually just looked the guy up on Facebook after numerous attempts with people with the same name. So that was a little awkward, but I finally found him, and he was willing to talk about his encounter. And I thought that was amazing. He does prefer, halfway through talking to him, this happened over the course of like a couple of weeks. And once he saw that this was serious and that I really was investigating and was going to write about this, he became a bit apprehensive and wanted to remain anonymous. So the name in the book is a pseudonym, which it does say that in the book as well, that it's a pseudonym. But I called him Robert Osborne, and this happened in 2001, almost 35 years to the month of the original Mothman sighting. So kind of a synchronistic thing there. And he was walking home early one evening, walking down Washington Street towards his apartment building. And Washington Street is right in the downtown center of Camden, Maine, which is a beautiful coastal town, right out of a Stephen King book. And so he's walking, and he begins hearing this chirping, squeaking like sound, kind of like a mouse, but it was really loud. So he was looking down to see what it was. Like, he didn't want to step on it or anything. And while he was looking down, he saw this shadow go by. Clearly the shadow was something above him. So he looks up, and he sees this large, kind of humanoid looking creature with a massive wingspan flying above him, and it was making that sound. He said the body was like 4.5 feet long, and the wings were translucent. And he said it flew right up over the apartment building that he lived in. And as it did that, he said he got a good measurement of the wings, and that it spanned from one side of the eaves to the other. And that was about 25 feet in length. I mean, that's the length of like a small plane. you know, like that's huge. So it then flew off into like a marshy area behind his building, and he talked to friends and family about it. And it's not like they didn't really believe him. It's more like they thought he was just misidentifying something, you know, like a turkey vulture or a sandhill crane. And both of those are actually found in the area. So, for whatever that's worth. But then he started having reoccurring dreams after this. And he said that he would find himself at that same spot, and he would look up, and instead of seeing that creature, he would actually see a really large, like as big as a house, UFO. And as soon as he would see it, it would like roar to life and then take off. And when I was talking to him about it, I was just kind of, it's what investigators do, and I was just asking him like, yo, is that a dream, or do you think that might be more of a memory? And he I wouldn't say he confided in me because he said I could talk about it, but he admitted that he would like it to be a dream, but he does feel like it was a memory. So I thought that was really fascinating as well, you know?
Was that?
Go ahead.
Well, I want to, first of all, the Mothman story and experiences related to the Mothman sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. One of my favorites. We have spent quite a bit of time on this program talking to people who have written and created documentaries about the Mothman incidents. So I'm very fascinated about this. Has anybody else, was that the only person in Maine that you were able to find that had that experience, or have you since, now that you're talking about it and now you've written about it, has anybody else come forward saying, yeah, I too saw something like that?
No one has actually come forward about it, but I was at a paranormal conference, and this was probably 8 months ago, something like that. And there were rumors, like other people were telling me that, hey, this other guy says he saw Mothman too. I'm like, cool, which guy is it? And then somebody else would come up, and and they didn't know. And hey, I heard that this other guy saw a Mothman in Maine too, and we couldn't just connect on it. It was really weird, and I was on I believe it was cryptozoology.net or .com, and when you
number of times, and I know he has something like that. So the one witness that you were able to talk to who experienced the Mothman sighting, did anything? I mean, obviously, one of the things that makes the Point Pleasant Mothman events so intriguing is that it seemed to end with a tragedy, the collapse of the Silver Bridge, and then the sighting stopped. Anything that you found in media reports that happened around the time that this gentleman saw what he thought was a Mothman-like creature?
Well, that's really interesting that you bring that up. 1 month before his sighting was actually the September 11 attacks. So it was a very tumultuous time.
Oh wow, yeah.
But other than that, though, nothing really related. Although that could be.
Just haven't connected the dots yet, right? We
Yeah.
All right. So listen, we have to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Nomar Slavik. The number is 844-687-7669 if you'd like to join the program and join our conversation.
to be mine.
In a major debate over how you say certain things, like in parts of the country, a soft drink is known as a soda. In other parts of the country, it's known as a pop. I happen to think soda is the more appropriate way. What do you think, Nomar? Is it soda or pop for you?
Definitely soda.
100%. Yeah. and let's see. And the word, when you make a film about a non-fictional topic, it's called, what I say is a documentary. What do you say?
Documentary.
Okay, so it's Terry at the end, because they're all saying it's documentary. I just don't buy it. But welcome back to the program. It's Beyond Reality Radio. I'm JV Johnson. We're talking with Nomar Slavik. He's a UFO author and a researcher and an investigator. We were talking about the Mothman before the break. We've only got a couple minutes in this break. Any Bigfoot sightings that you were able to report on, or that type of cryptid?
Yo, there's definitely tons of Bigfoot reports, but Lauren Coleman and Michelle Solier, they're actually working on a book right now about Bigfoot in Maine. So anything I came across, I just forwarded to them.
Nice. Yeah, well, they're kind of top of the heap when it comes to people keeping an eye on that stuff. Lauren's been on the program a bunch of times, so that's great. With the UFO sightings, how far back did you go?
I went quite a ways. I found a couple of reports from 1806 and 1808, and I was very surprised at that.
How far back? 1806 and 1808?
Yeah. There was this gentleman named Reverend Abraham Cummings, and he really might be the United States first paranormal investigator. He wrote a book that came out in the mid 1800s, and it's got literally like a 15-word title. And he at this point in time where I start writing about it, he was investigating about this ghost that people saw in the town of Sullivan, Maine, and her name was Nellie Butler. And apparently, most of the people in town either saw or heard her. So one night, Abraham's just walking around town, and two guys came up to him and said that they saw something really weird in a nearby field, and it was a glowing light hovering over the field. Well, my red flags start going off. I'm like, yo, is this a UFO story? So I keep reading, and so Cummings went to check it out, and he actually saw what the men did, but it was actually landed in the field, and he described it as a quote-unquote white rock. And then it ascended while he was watching it. And then while it was in the air, he actually observed a small entity come out of it and float down. That's crazy.
Wow.
And then he spoke telepathically to it, and actually assumed, well, according to his writings anyways, he assumed that it was Nellie Butler, but he was confused on why it was so small. So as he had that thought, it shapeshifted to a larger size and appeared female. And again, red flags are going off. I'm like, whoa, is this, an alien? And I just think that's the only word he knew to associate with it. Just like, hieroglyphs that you see, they just whatever they saw, that's what they drew, and some of them do look like aliens or other things, and I just don't think they had the wherewithal or, to describe it as something else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to continue our conversation with Nomar Slavik when we come back after the break. The number's 844-687-7669. Jason's off tonight. Tomorrow night, we've got a best-of program for you. And then Wednesday night, Jason and I will be back here with J.R. Freeman, talking to him about his experiences. He was an 18-year Air Force veteran. He had 2 near-death experiences during that time in which he experienced the afterlife. He wrote a 5-book series about those experiences called The Other World and Beyond, and he describes them in detail. He'll talk to us about them and talk to us about what lessons he learned in the other world, on the other side, that he applies to his life now. And then Thursday, of course, it's Readings with Rebecca Foster, Psychic Medium. We'll be taking your calls and giving readings on the air. It's a great time. You'll want to start calling at the beginning of the program because the phone lines fill up very, very quickly. Tonight we're talking with Nomar Slavik. He's the author of a book called Otherworldly Encounters: Evidence of UFO Sightings and Abductions. The book includes more than just UFO stories, but let's talk about a couple of the UFO stories. Nomar, what, you said you went through nearly, I think, 800 sightings or something, or some reports during the course of your research for the book. Obviously, the ones that made the cut, there were certain qualities to those stories. What was it that you used to kind of, filter the ones that you would use versus the ones that you wouldn't?
If I could speak to the witnesses in person, and I felt that they were very genuine in what they were telling me, that there was a believability, because I don't always, believe everything. And 9 times out of 10, I believe that they believe it. And then there's a few where I'm like, yup, you had a UFO experience, but that played a big part in it,
So when you got to speak to them and you could actually kind of gauge the sincerity in their voice or their eyes or whatever it happened to be, that was a big part of what you used to decide whether to include the stories. Is that because you felt as though you obviously, when you're bringing these stories to people through the course of a book, you want those stories to be as legitimate as possible. But I know we really don't have a way to gauge how legitimate some of these stories are, do we?
No, you just, take all the pieces, put them together. I mean, it's always going to be circumstantial or conjecture, if you will, whatever. But you put those pieces of the puzzle together, and I do let leave it up to the reader to decide. But if I'm including it in the book, it's because it spoke to me in some way with all those pieces coming together.
With any of the stories that came to you for possible inclusion, anybody come to you with video or photos or audio recordings or something else that supported their claim?
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually a whole chapter dedicated to videos that you can actually look up on YouTube and some other places, and some people had some interesting photos. They really could be anything. It was like we were talking about before. There were certainly UFOs, but who knows if they were actually, alien craft, But yeah, there's some great photos. And in the book, where I'm not allowed, if it's a witness that wasn't going to allow me to use their photo for whatever reason, then I point them to where they can potentially find it online. So that's in there as well.
Now, you said over the course of your life, you've had 10 or so experiences or sightings, UFO sightings, and we've differentiated between UFO versus alien craft. Are any of your 10 a sighting that you could very, very confidently say it was an alien craft?
Not confidently, but 2 out of the 10 were a lot more weird than I could try to come up with a conventional reasoning. That first one with the lightning bolt, and then in 2007, I believe, I had a sighting, and my roommate actually came home. They are a big skeptic in all things paranormal, and they came home kind of out of breath, and they were like, "Yo, there's something outside, and it's hovering over the house across the street." And I'm just like, what? It's like 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I go outside, and sure enough, there are these 2 red lights with a white light in the middle, and it's hovering like 100 feet above the house that's across the street. And I'm watching it for a little bit. And at that time, I just had like an old Nokia phone. So I tried snapping off a picture, but it's just like this red streak on a black background. So that didn't help in any way. But as I'm watching it, after just like a minute or so, it ascends diagonally very slowly, maybe another 50, 100 feet. And then it sits there again for maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then it starts starts taking off horizontally, and it's following the roadway. So I'm like, whoa, I get in my car and I start following it. Well, I immediately lose sight of it, so now I'm mad at myself for taking my eyes off it. But I know that about a mile up the road, there's an open field, open view of the sky. So I pull into a driveway that was there, and I wait and I wait and wait, and it never came by. So I don't know what to make of it, but it was weird. And, 2007, drones weren't available, for mass purchasing like they are now. There is a naval station nearby, but it certainly wasn't a helicopter because it was silent, very, very weird.
One of the things I think people don't appreciate, because we frequently get, well, geez, why doesn't anybody have any good pictures? And then they go on to say everybody's got a phone now that takes pictures. Well, I don't know if anybody's taken their phone and I did it the other night and tried to take a picture of the other night we had Mars very close to almost a full moon, and when you try to take a picture of that with your cell phone, it does not come out anything like what you see with your eyes.
Not at all.
Those phones don't have the ability. Now, they're great cameras, but they're designed to take pictures of people's faces and things like that. They don't have the filters and the things you need to take good pictures of anything up in the night sky. It's just not that easy.
I agree. It doesn't have the lens capacity that it really needs, and the depth of field that you need, and can it read certain variants of light and things like that. They're just not advanced enough for that.
So let's turn the topic of conversation from the encounters and the sightings that you included in the book, and I'm going to get some of your opinion on what's going on here, because as you said, we've got a lot of years of people reporting seeing things in the sky. We'll call them UFOs. We don't know what they are, but what do you think they are? The ones that aren't something conventional, what do you think they are?
Well, I think this goes back to putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And when you have a phenomenon that boasts probably like 1 billion witnesses, not every case is misidentification. Not everything is a helicopter, a plane, a weather balloon, on and on and on. There's got to be something to it. And personally, I do believe that there is life besides us in the universe, and I wholly think it's possible that whatever they are, they're coming here.
And when you take that leap, when you say there is life in the universe beyond just us, and they're coming here, we have to start asking the questions, what kind of technology could they possibly have, given the distances that are so great?
Yeah. I couldn't even imagine, is it wormhole technology? They bending space and time? Is this all just parallel universes? And it's really easy to go back and forth, kind of like hauntings, and how that can be a theory in hauntings as well, where we're just seeing a bleed through, if you will. Or is it time travelers? The possibilities are endless.
There are a lot of possibilities. So if we assume they are coming here, the next question I have for you is, what's your thought on why they're coming here?
Boy, I think some might be malevolent in nature. It kind of goes back to that contactee versus abductee movements, the differences between them. The contactees are experience very loving and compassionate abduction scenarios, and they're here to help the world. And then others, maybe not so much. Maybe what happened with Betty and Barney Hill or Whitley Strieber or, scenarios like that. So it's really hard to tell what they want, but for some reason, something is happening on Earth that has caught their attention. And I think there's a lot of observation going on. But again, this is all speculation. I'm no expert or anything. These are just, personal thoughts.
Well, I like hearing your personal thoughts, given to the number of people you've spoken to have had experiences. That's how we put some of these puzzles together. So if they're coming here and clearly they're not making their presence obvious, they are, whether they're doing that intentionally or not, I'm not sure, but they're not landing on the proverbial White House lawn, right?
Yeah, but I think if you talk to some people, they're making themselves very obvious and very known. And look at the Phoenix Lights and that whole incident that boasts thousands of witnesses and mass sightings, the Pentagon stuff that has come out. It's so somebody on
use that method. So what do you think's next? Do you think we get some disclosure along the way? I know these are all questions that all you can do is speculate, but nobody has these answers, so we all speculate.
No, but I do have a thought, though, a theory, if you will.
Okay.
And I don't even know how much I actually believe it, but I certainly think it's possible. So disclosure, I don't know if we're ever going to get disclosure the way we want disclosure, which is just, the government coming out being like, yo, they're real. That's not even happening with what's going on with the Pentagon stuff being released. People currently in the government are staying away from it, and it's people that have left the government that are really commenting on it, So it's not like we're having disclosure right now, but one of my theories is, and it's not just mine, like this is a pretty big theory that a lot of people think, is that there may be some sort of staged alien invasion that's going to happen at some point. And you can kind of trace that back with maybe Vietnam and Cuba and September 11 and all these things that have happened that have caused these big changes in the world, for laws to change, to the way we live our lives to change. And the next thing could be the staged alien invasion, where we think this is an actual extraterrestrial invasion that's happening, but it is our own government or the world's governments coming together, or some sort of shadow government coming together. And is that going to be a way to put us all in internment camps, or is it a way to maybe bring us together? And the way I think about it is, I hope it brings humanity together, if that is the thing that's going to happen. But that's really a theory that I like to think about, and it's kind of scary, it's kind of fascinating, but that's kind of been on my mind the last year or so since the Pentagon stuff came out.
We only have a couple minutes left. You are a member of a paranormal group called Prime Paranormal, which stands for Paranormal Research in Maine. Yeah. I'm assuming you do some ghost hunting and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, we're actually on hiatus now. Their babies were born, and there was some illness, and then my books, and so we've been on hiatus for a little while now. But yeah, we traveled around the state, and we did a ton of investigations, caught some really great, like, Class A EVPs. We caught a couple of things on camera. We had some pretty amazing personal experiences, and I absolutely really enjoy that whole process. I maybe I'm one of few, but I really enjoy the evidence review as well, because when you get that, even if it's just that one EVP after 8 hours of listening to white noise, like, boy, it gets you going. It's better than any Red Bull or anything, and it's just amazing.
Well, I have to share a quick experience as it relates to EVP. I was at Rolling Hills Sanitarium doing an investigation a few years back with a friend, and we were sitting in a dark room by ourselves, did an EVP session, and after the fact, we listened to the recording, and the most incredible EVP showed up. And we were the only ones in the room. We knew we were alone, and it was one of those things that does send shivers down your spine. It is an unbelievable experience when you capture one of those.
Absolutely.
So what's next? What's next for you? I'm sure you're not going to retire at this point. You got a lot of work ahead of you. So what's next?
Yeah. I'm always working on something new, writing wise. I've been writing a lot of stories about beings, like either alien beings or cryptids. I'm just kind of pulling stuff together and getting my thoughts together on that. I also have my own podcast. It's called I Want to Believe. I host it with my buddy Kyle Sawyer, and we talk about fun stuff like the Dover Demon, the Outlaw Pass, of course UFOs, and a lot more. And what's different about it, though, is we release everything as seasons, like Netflix style. So we record all the episodes and then we release them all at once. Season 1 is out now. Season 2 begins to record in the fall, and it'll come out in winter have that available by the spring of 2019.
Well, it sounds like you're busy, and I appreciate you taking the time to be on the program with us tonight and sharing the stories and all the conversation we had. It's been a great night.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And if anybody just wants to reach out, say hi or share a story or whatever, just hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Nomar Slavik author. And I'll get back to you right away.
All right. So the next time you have something That's going to do it for tonight. Thanks for joining us in Beyond Reality Radio. Again, tomorrow night will be a best of program, one of our great interviews from the past. I'm not sure exactly which one it's going to be, but I know it's going to be good. It'll be on tomorrow night, and then we'll be back Wednesday night with J.R. Freeman. Jason and I will be, and then Thursday night, it's readings with Rebecca Foster. That's going to be a busy one, so be prepared for that. Thanks again for being here. I'm J.V. Johnson. Have a great night, and we'll catch you next time.
Honey, you are a rock upon which I stand, and I come here to talk. I hope you understand. The green eyes, yeah, the spotlight shines upon you. And how could anybody deny you? Came here with a load, and it feels so much lighter.
All right, anybody else exhausted? Actually, I'm not too bad. I was tired coming into the show, but it always fires me up. That's because you guys make it awesome. Yeah, so tomorrow I'm going to be on the road. I'll be back Wednesday sometime, and I will be I'll be here for the show. Jason will be back. J.R. Freeman will be joining us Wednesday night, so should be good. Doug, you're always awake. Except for when you're supposed to be listening to the show, and then you fall asleep. We've caught you twice on that. Boy, I'm telling you. All right, guys. Again, thanks for being here. It's been great having you all along with us. Like I said, you always make me laugh, which makes the show very, very interesting. Love you all. Have a great the rest of your night, and we'll catch you next time. Good night.